Alright guys, the summer transfer window has now officially closed. It will reopen again on Monday. It's all a little bit complicated and convoluted because of the Club World Cup, but regardless, we've still got plenty of Championship transfer rumours to talk through in today's video. If you go and enjoy, make sure to drop a like. 800 likes would be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump in. Starting out with some managerial news, we have had confirmation of Sergej Yukorovic being hired by Hull City. We knew this one was in the pipeline for quite some time, but it has now been officially confirmed. And he's coming into Hull at an interesting time. This is a big season coming up for the Tigers. They obviously narrowly avoided relegation last season by the skin of the teeth on the final day, thanks to their goal difference. As has often been the case with Hull over these last few transfer windows as well, there's tended to be quite a big squad overhaul every year, and I'm expecting a lot of transfer activity out of that club this summer as well. So he's got a big job on his hands. He signed a 2-year contract with the club. After all the Gerrard to Middlesbrough links that we spoke about last time, it now seems like the club has a 3-manager shortlist for who's going to be the next manager going in at Borough, and Steven Gerrard isn't on that list. I think a few Borough fans will be thankful to know, but the 3 managers under consideration for that Middlesbrough role are Danny Roll, who's obviously employed with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment, but has been linked with countless jobs throughout this summer so far, Steve Cooper, who's currently out of work, and Rob Edwards, who's also out of work. Borough fans, if you had the pick of those 3 managers, who are you gravitating towards? And could former Barnsley boss Gerhard Struber be in line for a Championship return? He's now the odds-on favourite to take over at Bristol City going into next season. Have to admit, I quite like Struber. Last time we saw him in the Championship, he walked into Barnsley in a really difficult situation, inherited them when they were sat bottom of the Championship. He ended up keeping them up on the final day of the season. Didn't stick around for too long though. He was tempted to America by New York Red Bulls. He's then since had a stint with RB Salzburg in Austria, and then was most recently managing in Cologne in Germany. But now without a club, I'm tempted to say him going in at Bristol City would be a decent fit, albeit I've not, heavily kept up with him since he left Barnsley in 2020. And could this be the end of the road for Chris Wilder at Sheffield United? Rumours first emerged a week or two ago about Wilder potentially leaving Sheffield United this summer. Those rumours have since re-emerged. It's now been reported by The Independent that Chris Wilder could leave the Blades this summer after there's been discussions over recruitment and a few other issues have cropped up. I'm in no doubt that the vast majority of Sheffield United fans probably would be a little bit gutted about Wilder moving on. I think the prime example to use in terms of Sheffield United going so close to promotion last season but it just not happening for them to then go again next season, the perfect case study to use for that is Leeds from last season. Obviously playoff heartbreak in the playoff final, but then they went again with the same manager, Daniel Farke. They lost quite a few players in that summer transfer window, but that consistency of play served them really well last season in the Championship. I mean, even in the regular season, 90 points, or 92 I suppose you could say, that Sheffield United picked up, that would have seen them automatically promoted in the vast majority of Championship seasons. It's just the fact that we had 2 freaks last year in the league, in Leeds and Burnley, both picking up 100 points, that didn't happen in the end. So, listen, these things happen, behind the scenes disagreements and things like this. You always tend to get it with new owners coming into a club as well, but Sheffield United fans, what's your reaction to that news? And according to reports coming out of France, Julian Stéphan is in advanced talks with QPR over taking over at Loftus Road going into next season. Now, the French manager has spent his entire managerial career up until this point managing in France. He's previously had stints with both Strasbourg and Rennes. He's been out of work since November last year, and I've seen a few mixed reviews about him from reading up on some French football fans and their sorts of opinions on him. But by all accounts, he's the odds-on favourite for that role at the moment. In terms of some done deals, we have had confirmation of George Saville signing for Luton Town after turning down a contract extension by Millwall. We knew that this one was in the pipeline and discussed it in a little bit more detail in last time's video, but that one has since been confirmed. I think it'll be a really good option for Luton in League One. We've also had confirmation of Blackburn Rovers signing Dion Deneve, coming over from the Belgian Pro League. A fairly versatile player, can play on the wing as a wing back. He's only just turned 24 and he becomes Blackburn's first signing of the summer. And we've seen Sheffield United getting a deal over the line for Nigerian winger Ehije Ukaki, who's coming over from the Bulgarian top flight. Still quite raw at just 20 years old, but coming off the back of a decent season in Bulgaria where he got 7 goals and 3 assists, can play sort of anywhere on that right hand side. Only 20 years old, like I say, so someone that the Blades can look to develop over these next few years. But those are some of the done deals that we've seen go through in the Championship recently. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into some rumours. We'll start out with some Borja Sainz news, and that's that Paul Porto have had their opening bid of £12.7 million rejected by Norwich for the Spanish winger. It was thought that Porto were trying to get that deal done quite quickly in order to get him eligible to play for them in time for the Club World Cup, but that will no longer happen with this break in the transfer market. But it is thought that they will revisit their interest in him once the window opens again. Norwich understandably holding out for a higher transfer fee than £12.7 million. He's only got 1 year left to run on his contract at Carrow Road, but with the calibre of sides that are interested, no surprise that they've snubbed that initial offer. Napoli have also gone in with a formal proposal, but likewise they're yet to meet Norwich's valuation. Earlier in this window, I think it was Athletic Bilbao who were linked with him as well. There's interest coming from all over Europe at the moment. Norwich will be well aware of that, and after the season he's just had in the Championship, yeah, there was always bound to be this amount of interest, wasn't there? Another exit from Norwich this summer that seems more than likely at some stage is Josh Sargent. Once again, he's attracting plenty of interest, and once again, it's Leeds United being linked with the United States international. According to recent reports, Leeds have been in constant contact with Norwich City officials to explore that sort of deal, but it's thought that Norwich will be holding out for at least 17 million. The ace that Norwich have up their sleeve in terms of the Josh Sargent negotiations compared to Borja Sainz is that he is on a longer contract. He's still contracted with the Championship club until 2028, and so they've got quite a bit of wriggle room in that regard. I do think in the Championship last season there was a bit of a lack of proper quality number 9s, but Josh Sargent you definitely have as one of the 3 best strikers in the league, I think it's fair to say, from last season. Obviously missed a chunk of the season through injury. Norwich missed him badly during that period, but he's someone who last time in the Premier League things didn't quite click for him, but he's had these last few years developing in the Championship that I think he is someone that deserves that shot at Premier League football again, and I think would do better for himself compared to how last time went with Norwich in the Prem. West Brom defender Thiago Hegem's being looked at by clubs in Europe right now, with Bologna supposedly sending scouts to watch the West Brom defender. Now what's interesting about this story is the fact that Shilan Patel, the West Brom owner, does have a small stake in the Italian side, so if he wants that transfer to go through, he could definitely pull a few strings behind the scenes. Definitely one to keep your eye on though. You'd expect West Brom to have a decent amount of bargaining power there. He only signed for the club back in the last summer transfer window and he signed a 3-year deal with them then. There's plenty of Championship interest in Liverpool defender Nat Phillips, who spent last season out on loan with Derby. Along with Derby, you've got the likes of West Brom, Norwich and Ipswich, who have all been linked. Now he is going into the final year of his contract with Liverpool. There had been some conflicting reports that he was actually out of contract this summer, but it's since transpired that no, he does have 1 year remaining on his deal with Liverpool. If he was to leave them on a permanent basis, it'll be interesting to see what Liverpool are looking for. Going back to last summer, they rejected the £4 million offer from Trabzonspor for him, with them reportedly looking for around 8 million at the time. I can't see them getting that sort of money for him now, but the biggest stumbling block for some Championship sides going for Nat Phillips is probably his wage demands. I mean, reportedly, the contract that he's on at Liverpool at the moment is worth 65 grand a week. I can't imagine that last season Derby were covering all of that. But that's probably the biggest stumbling block in any potential deal there, because for a Championship defender, I think Nat Phillips is very capable, as we've seen. And we've seen Birmingham joining West Brom in the race to sign Tottenham youngster Mikey Moore on loan for next season. Now, the links to West Brom are obvious, with Ryan Mason going in there at the Hawthorns, who previously worked with the Spurs youngster behind the scenes at Spurs. But Birmingham are ready to rival them and are going in with a proposal of their own, it would seem, going off the latest rumours. Now, if Tottenham are willing to sanction a loan deal, I think someone would be getting a really talented youngster. Obviously someone who will still be rough and raw around the edges. You know, he's only 17 years old, but rated very highly by those at Spurs. I think a Championship loan move would probably make sense for him at this stage, getting that regular first team football that he probably wouldn't quite get at Spurs at this point. But if you're a player and you've got the option to go to Birmingham or West Brom, who are you choosing? I don't know, I'll let you guys battle that out in the comments down below. We've spoken previously about Wrexham's interest in Danny Ings, who's set to become a free agent this summer upon his contract with West Ham expiring. Well, they're not the only Championship club who are interested. Watford also sniffing around this sort of deal. He's an interesting one, Ings. He's not played a ton of football since making that move to West Ham back in January 2023. He's often been their sort of backup number 3 sort of striker. So I think at this stage a drop down to the Championship probably makes sense. I don't think you're going to get 46 games a season out of him or anything like that. but having that know-how, sharpness in and around the box, I think would be handy. He's still only 32 years old as well, albeit will be 33 by the time this season starts, but it's not as if you're bringing in someone, you know, that's 38 or, you know, 1 year away from retirement or anything like that. I still think Danny Ings has got quite a bit of football left in him, but potentially having to weigh up the choice of going to Wrexham or Watford, we'll wait and see what he chooses, if they do propose 2 official offers to him, that is. A potential permanent striker outgoing at Watford this summer could be for Milita Radjovic. He's currently out on loan in Denmark, but is being eyed up by Paphos FC in Cyprus. It's been estimated that Watford would be looking for a transfer fee in the region of 2.5 to 3.5 million. I believe they originally signed him for about 1 million, so would be flipping him for a nice profit there. He scored 10 championship goals during his only full season for Watford back in 2023/24. Blackburn have also been interested in the past, but it seems like the prominent interest right now is coming from Paphos FC. And some more movement for Watford in the striker department as well is that Ivan Cedric looks to be on his way to signing for the Hornets as well. They've been linked with him for a few weeks now. He's the last Palmas player, but he spent this season out on loan with Barcelona B, where he scored 8 goals and got 5 assists in 26 appearances. Still looks fairly raw, but has the attributes to like about a centre forward. He's 23. He spent his entire career playing in Spain up until this point. Does have a relationship with the Watford manager, Paulo Pezzolano, as well, having previously worked with him at Valladolid, so makes sense there's a link there. We've now got Derby County as the latest club interested in signing Blackburn Rovers captain Lewis Travis. It feels like he's been linked with about half of the championship at this point. Obviously, there's been prominent interest from Wrexham, Birmingham, Sheffield United I've seen linked at one point, Ipswich, where he previously had a loan spell. A lot of interest right now. The Derby link, I think, makes sense. You know, John Eustace knows him well from his time at Ewood Park. With the amount of links right now, it seems almost inevitable that he'll be going somewhere. Only got 1 year left in his contract at Ewood Park, but you'd be imagining that Blackburn would still be holding out for a reasonable fee for who is quite an important player. Ipswich Town have been in talks with Jens Cajuste in Napoli over a potential permanent deal for the midfielder after he spent last season on loan with Ipswich in the Premier League. Now, Ipswich did have a buy obligation for the midfielder. If they achieved Premier League survival, they needed to pay around about £10 million as part of that obligation, but obviously were relegated, so that clause was never triggered. But despite that, I think most would agree he'd be an absolutely excellent asset in the Championship next season, and that's why Ipswich are still interested in a permanent deal. It has been speculated that Napoli would potentially be prepared to accept a little bit less than that 10 million clause that was originally in his contract at Ipswich. But at this stage, talks are continuing, and we'll see if Ipswich manage to get anywhere with that one. I think he would be a really good pickup though, especially considering there has been a bit of talk about Sam Morsey potentially moving on this summer, and yeah, like I say, for the Championship, really good option there. Norwich City have had a bid rejected for Leicester City goalkeeper Jakub Stolarczyk. Obviously, Norwich still in the market for a new #1 goalkeeper. They've already brought in Daniel Grimshaw, but it's thought that he'll be going in as a #2 at Carrow Road. This one's an interesting one. From a Leicester City perspective, there's already been a fairly big turnover in the goalkeeping department, with both Danny Ward and Daniel Everson leaving on free transfers upon their contracts expiring. There's been a bit of talk about Mads Hermansen as well, some links with a few sides with him at the moment. In terms of Stolarczyk though, we'll have to wait and see if Norwich go in with an improved offer. But there you have it guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, anything that we've missed off in today's video that you've seen going on, make sure to get it in the comments down below and we'll give it a mention next time. Apart from that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and I'll see you all in the next one.